Last night, Lord gave me something for you that I've never preached before. And I've been preaching for over 50 years. It's kind of easy to dig into your computer and pull up some old notes. But I asked this question. This question dropped on me from the Spirit of God. He said, will God do something undeniable in front of unbelievers? Undeniable. And started to burn in me. Because we've watched in our tent, blind eyes open, paralyzed limbs loosened, and an entire gang saved at one time, where the leader of the gang and his officers and his followers all walk forward at the same time. So in a moment, you have a violent gang, and now you have a Christian gang. Is that good? And so I said, every once in a while, when we announce a healing service, someone will go online. This is what we love about social media. People can gargle with gunpowder and shoot their mouths off. And he said, if you're really real, why don't you go into the hospital and empty them? And I thought that would be convenient. How many of you know that would save me a lot of time? If Jesus were to empty an ICU ward, that would save me a lot of time. And it would make things uncomfortable for atheists. If God were to save the most notorious person in America, the most evil, let's go, stupid, evil, I'm not going to name any names because that list gets longer every day. But take one that you and I perceive to be anti-God, hate everything, and an angel smacks them upside their head and converts them, and they're saved. Now, wouldn't that save a lot of time? It would. So I began to pursue this question. Will God do something undeniable in front of unbelievers? America's beyond words. Oh, I could stand up here and debate. I've done it with professors. And I could get up here and give you the apologetic, watertight argument for how Christianity is ridiculously real and atheism is insanely stupid. Because it is. But that is not where America is at. America's not an atheist because they don't believe in God, but because of demonic power. I'm going to try this side over here. They look like they might give me a reaction. People are not on drugs, dispensing with their children, believing blindly in a drug, and doing all this stuff because of some thought out process. Oh, I don't know my gender. That didn't happen to you because of an intellectual blazing epiphany. It is demonic power. It's a demonic power. So unless we do something that attacks the power of Satan, we're not going to make headway in American culture. And there is nothing more embarrassing than a pastor who believes in a marketing natural cure for the United States of America. There's not a political cure. There's not a psychological cure. There's only one cure, the anointing that breaks the yoke. Let's try it again. The anointing that breaks the yoke. How many of you want that? Raise your hand. How many of you want that? Acts chapter 3, verse 9 says, and all the people saw him walking and praising God. I'm going to repeat that. All of the people saw him walking and praising God. Then they knew it was he who sat begging alms in front of the gate beautiful at the temple. And they were filled with wonder and amazement at what had happened to him. He was the best known quadriplegic in the city. He had the most lucrative begging spot in Jerusalem. He sat where everyone thought about giving to God, right before they walk into the temple to pray. And every day he was there. Now I'm going to venture to tell you that this is proof that God will do something undeniable in public, in front of people. And he will do it. How many of you want that? Raise your hand. How many of you sincerely believe that this church could become a church where on Sunday medical miracles take place that are undeniable? Well, what will the money and the intellectualism? Because yesterday we were downtown and saw that Naples loves cars. There was a 4-block area of Naples downtown that, if sold, would pay off the national debt. Am I right? So the undeniable power of God, the undeniable power of God, with all the wealth, all the money, all of the power that migrates here at this time of year, you take the leveler, which is disease, the great leveler. When cancer hits a family, their economic strata doesn't matter. Yes, they have the advantage of the best oncologists. Yes, they'll get immediate care more than the minority child in the poor section of town. But that does not change the psychology of the moment that your doctor says the biopsy came back and you have cancer. You can control a lot of things, but not the mindset. Now, let's multiply it. Ronald McDonald House just kicked out a 4-year-old child who had leukemia from their house because the parents refused to get him vaccinated. They said, you don't get our treatment, you don't get our help, you don't get anything. Today, this morning, in New Brunswick in Canada, father lost his child because he refused to be vaccinated. The judge took the child away. Now, I'm going to get into some things this morning. How many of you don't mind? But you see, divine healing is becoming not just a luxury. Divine healing is not becoming something that we admire and are going to get our jollies from. It will literally be the entrance level of New Testament Christianity if we want to save America. We got to have miracles. We got to have them. The miracle was so blazing that in chapter 4, the 5 heads of the crime families of Jerusalem, and there were 5 of them, and their names are listed at the beginning of chapter 4. The Gambinis. So in verse 16, these 5 heads of the crime families said, what are we going to do with these men? What are we going to do with Christianity? For the fact is that an extraordinary miracle has taken place through them, and is public knowledge, look me in the eye, and clearly evident to all the residents of Jerusalem. And before I read the last phrase, I want to remind you that at 3 o'clock in the morning, when God began to give me this, what is up with God and 3 o'clock in the morning? I've even looked for a verse in the Bible. Thou shalt hear from God at 3 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, the word that God gave me is, will God do something undeniable in front of unbelievers? And this is the last part of the phrase. I'm going to read it again. It says, an extraordinary miracle has taken place through them, is public knowledge, clearly evident, and all the residents of Jerusalem comma, and we cannot deny it. Cannot deny it. Leaving miracles out of Christianity would be to tell our armed forces not to use their most effective weapon. And the fact that we don't want it, and we use the excuse that Satan has abused it, and that multiple people with the IQ of an eggplant have gone on Facebook and in the name of Christianity come up with all kind of stupid visitations to heaven, visions that came from pizza and not from God, and have distorted the message, abused the swamp, stirred up this mud, that I submit to you, none of that is an excuse. That we have got to be the people that say, okay, they messed it up, but we are going to do it right.